Grab yourself a cold beverage, maybe a bag of popcorn, sit back on the couch and kick your feet up onto something or someone because we're about to have a good time. This is Best Sega Saturn Reviews by Classic Game Room, a fun-filled collection of some of my favorite Sega Saturn games and reviews that I've produced over the years, like Crusader, No Remorse, Guardian Force, Marvel, Superheroes, Myst, remember Myst? And let's start this with one of my favorite Sega Saturn games that you never hear about. It's the incredible Cyberbots. Enjoy. Banished from Earth Classic Game Room broadcasts from the intergalactic space arcade on its never-ending mission to review everything. Welcome to Classic Game Room, where you know I love giant robots smashing each other and the Sega Saturn. This game combines the best of both worlds. It's Cyberbots Fullmetal Madness on the Sega Saturn. Just look at this. It's incredible. Choose your fighter. Choose your giant robot. Destroy. It's just that simple. It's Cyberbots from Capcom, released in 1997 for your Sega Saturn. Why is this game not a household name? It's wonderful. Wonderful. When you have robots with flamethrowers, that goes beyond good, and even awesome. It goes straight to wonderful. How do you top wonderful? With the special edition package of Cyberbots. That's like Wonderful Plus, with a bit of the ultra extra wonderful. This is basically just a good straightforward fighting game from Capcom, like Street Fighter or the Marvel Superheroes fighting game or Darkstalkers. Except it has giant robots with flamethrowers. Did they make this for me? And if so, why did it take me this long to find it? It's a terrific, fun fighting game, but I can't believe it never received a Western release. This is a Japanese exclusive for the Sega Saturn. Now, fortunately, it's easy enough to play Japanese games on a Western Saturn with the Action Replay cart, and I think you need the extra RAM anyway, so I should just apologize in advance for spending your money, because if you like any of the other Capcom 2D fighting games and you think this looks cool, you must own Cyberbots. You can't put this game in your Saturn fast enough. So, what makes this game so good? Well, aside from the obvious giant robots destroying each other, there's a bunch of fighters, each with their own storyline, and a whole lot of robots to choose from. And that keeps the game fun and interesting also. Production values are very high, the music is great, and let's take a look at the special edition packaging, which is mind-blowing. This is just amazing. As if the game isn't good enough, you get a giant box with robots and things on fire. Lots of Japanese text that I can't read, and there's even more inside. Let's open this thing up and discover the beautiful hardcover book featuring robots, cartoons, music, models, everything imaginable to make this even more desirable. It's the Cyberbots DX Secret File. I won't lie to you, this is one of my favorite collectibles in the entire Intergalactic Space Arcade collection. I can't recommend this game highly enough. It's one of the best Saturn releases that you can get, period. And I don't even feel like I've played it enough. It's a hard game. I'm pretty sure I've just scratched the surface. I'm still trying to figure out which robot is my favorite, but at the same time I also like to just flip through the book and look at the pretty pictures. Oh, but wait, there's more. We also get this thing, a Cyberbots pop-up book. Seriously? I'm not even gonna joke about a Vectrex release, because Well, that would just implode the universe. Like most of the Capcom fighting games, it starts off easy and then gets difficult quickly. I'm still learning the moves, since I can't read the instructions. But it plays like you would expect. There's multiple difficulty settings, and obviously you can play single player or two-player versus against a friend who will love you for owning this. You may find that you have new friends after owning Cyberbots, or enemies who will all be jealous. In between each round, we get cutscenes with some dialogue that I don't understand, but who cares when you've got giant robots with drills and flamethrowers? Make up your own story. Here we have a robot with a lightsaber fighting a robot with a giant drill in front of a volcano. Cyberbots was made for me. I couldn't ask for anything more, except maybe a giant transforming El Camino, filled with beer. Cyclone versus a giant octopus robot named Super 8. It just keeps getting better. This is easily one of Capcom's best fighting games, and good news, it's on the PlayStation Network. Pay attention to the backgrounds too, there's frequently stuff going on there. So I have a giant drill-equipped, flamethrower-wielding, robot-sized thank you to send to George from McKees Rocks, Pennsylvania, just outside of Pittsburgh, for sending this to the show. An incredible gift that you'll probably see featured in the backgrounds of some shots because it's prominently featured in the Intergalactic Space Arcade. It brings a smile to my face every time I see it. Cyberbots. Fullmetal madness. It would be madness not to own this game now.
Mission terminated.
I realized the moment I fell into the fissure that the book would not be destroyed as I had planned. It continued falling into that starry expanse of which I had only a fleeting glimpse.
Welcome to Classic Game Room, where I have one of the ultimate video game classics. This is Myst on the Sega Saturn. Prepare to hurt your brain. In case you missed it the first time around, it's never too late to enjoy Myst. The best-selling 1993 PC game makes for an exciting 1995 Sega Saturn release. Okay, maybe exciting isn't the right word, but damned good certainly is. That's actually two words, but both applicable to Myst. A game that feels downright archaic by modern standards, like I'm browsing the World Wide Web on Netscape in 1994 without that pleasing early 1990s modem sound. Bing, bing, bing. Gosh, I miss that. Instead, what we get is a well-detailed, elaborate, mysterious adventure that convincingly drops you into another world, stuck on an island with only a few cryptic messages to get you started. So, who got stuck instantly in Myst? Raise your hand. This guy. Yeah, puzzle games are not my strong point. I have no patience, and there's no flamethrower in Myst. How they put all this time into a game and forgot a flamethrower is beyond me. So instead of just burning down the island for insurance money to buy a spaceship and fly your way out of there, you have to solve puzzles. For a long time, Myst was the best-selling PC game ever, even outselling Thexter, which is nonsense. Because as good as Myst is, it's no Thexter. Come on. What world do we live in? I guess a world where people like Myst. It's common knowledge that Myst is a good game, but what makes it good?
It's hard for me to believe. Most of my books have been destroyed. Catherine, it's one of our sons.
Because playing Myst today feels like you're taking the horse and buggy out to buy kerosene for your lantern. You have to play Myst with a pencil and paper to take notes. You can't even tweet your friends on Facebook when you solve a puzzle. Technically, it looks dated. The beauty of Myst is in its storytelling. It drops you in the middle of nowhere with only your brain to get your way out. And no, you can't take it out and swing it at people. I tried. That's like the first thing I tried because I was immediately over my head with Myst. I'm horrible at these games. I never played Myst when it was new. I was too busy playing Doom and Wolfenstein. It's not a fast-paced game, as you can see. If this were made today, it would be a first-person shooter. Instead, this is more like a point-and-click adventure game. It takes forever to get anywhere. But that forces you to pay attention to everything. Every visual, every audio cue is a clue about something, so pay attention. So without giving away any spoilers here, the first thing you'll want to do is explore the island thoroughly, flip all those switches, and get the hang of the controls and the puzzle-solving style. The point-and-click interface is somewhat old-fashioned, obviously, but effective. So, more advanced than those old-school Sierra games where you had to type in something 6,000 times until it registered. Kick over the cauldron. Place foot on cauldron and push. Pull cauldron using hand. Call for help. Pray that something moves. Jump into bottomless pit. Okay, so after I figured out how to rotate the tower, I got some clues and made note of them using pencil and paper. Set the clock, eventually figured out how to move that gear thing, and that activates this thing, which really isn't all that apparent. I guess it kind of is once you figure it out, but it's really cool and very well executed. Now, Myst is best known as a PC game, but it's also available on numerous game consoles like the Sega Saturn, seen here, the Panasonic 3DO, and just about everything else that could run Myst. To get the most out of it, I would really recommend not playing it with the internet. A walkthrough will give away pretty much everything. And that diminishes the feeling of being alone, because that's what makes Myst Myst. In 1993, you couldn't Google map your way out of this place. AAA is not coming for you. It's kind of like if your iPhone ran out of batteries and you didn't have your 3DS with you and nobody nearby had an iPad and the wireless hotspot place was broken and, wow, being alone just doesn't exist anymore. So a big thanks to Nathan from San Antonio, Texas for sending Myst to the show, along with Command & Conquer on the Saturn. Hey Nathan, thanks for breaking my brain. I really didn't use it much anyway. Oh no, I left my keys in the spaceship and it locked me out. Well, now I've got to solve some more puzzles. Myst is not for everyone. It's extremely challenging, but rewarding. Something that so many storyline-driven games are not. When finishing a game, it requires nothing more than simply having the time to finish the game, and the ending is nothing more than a build-up to the next sequel. What's the point? Where's the feeling of accomplishment? Myst pushes you to think. It's a cool story from start to finish. I like the movie references in Myst, like the pseudo Blade Runner music in here. And how about that chair? Those of you playing BioShock Infinite should recognize something similar. Says straight out of Blade Runner. Myst has gone on to inspire a lot. It's an important piece of gaming history, but it's not for everyone. It's really very difficult. If you want to just get the storyline, play with an internet walkthrough. I'm glad I played it, although I have to admit that I needed to peek at some of the puzzles online, or else I think I'd still be looking for that first door. But when I figured out stuff on my own, I was rewarded with a feeling of accomplishment. Like, alright, I'm not a complete moron. Although in reality, I'd still be stuck on that island after having died of starvation in 2 days. If you like the looks of it, don't miss Myst. Welcome to Classic Game Room. It's time to break out your Sega Saturn games because here's the review of the HST-3220, the white Japanese Saturn. If you're in the market for a Sega Saturn, first of all, good choice. It's one of the best game systems in the universe. Which one do you buy? Because there's several models to choose from, all of which are extremely similar. The gray one is the original Japanese Sega Saturn, the black one is your basic American Sega Saturn, and the white one is the super cool, later model Japanese Sega Saturn. Originally released in 1994, throughout its relatively short lifespan, the Saturn went through a few design changes. Most notably going from a Model 1 to a Model 2, the white one featured here is a Model 2 Japanese Sega Saturn. The Model 2s are pretty easy to spot because of the round buttons. This white model HST-3220 comes with the good Sega Saturn gamepad, and I know what you're thinking, Mark, really? 3 Sega Saturns? Don't worry, I've got 4. You never know when you may need to have 4 Sega Saturns plugged in at once. I've planned ahead. On screen now is the original Sega Saturn that I bought in the Mark Buys a Sega Saturn video. Still works, still love it. So, why buy the white one when any of the other ones will do? Well, that's a good question. It's a Japanese Saturn like the gray one pictured here, which is a Model 1. Notice the oval buttons and some design changes on top. Also, there's vents on the side of the Model 1. The white Saturn, like the black Sega Dreamcast, is cool because it's uncommon, especially in the West. I've never seen one of these things in the US when I visit from outer space. As I understand it, this one has a modded BIOS, so it plays any Saturn game. It's got the memory card installed and, most importantly, plays Dodonpachi and a lot of other incredible Sega Saturn releases. If you're in the market for a Saturn, which one should you buy? Choose the one that fits your budget. It's pretty easy to play Japanese games on a Western Saturn, but if you're looking to buy and make a statement, go with the white one. Let's see it in action. The question isn't, what year is it? The question is, what year do I want it to be? Yes. I like that logo. That's the cool one. In my opinion, if you're just starting out collecting for the Sega Saturn, which you should, go with a Model 2, whichever one is cheapest and works, because they come with the best controllers. Get an action replay card, and you should be good to go from there. But any of these Saturn controllers will work with any Sega Saturn, so really, just get whatever you can. And then once you're hooked, if you feel the need to get a few more, this one is out there. The white Sega Saturn, HST-3220. So once again, I've got a huge Classic Game Room shout out and thank you to send to my man Frank from San Leandro, California. Thank you, Frank. Thank you for sending the white Sega Saturn and the net link. I'm still trying to get that thing hooked up. It's like it's not 1996 anymore or something. You'll see this used in several upcoming Saturn reviews, so thank you for watching. And remember what they say. You can never have too many Sega Saturns. If they don't say that, they should. Nobody ever wants to be an average hero or a subpar hero. We all want to be superheroes. And guess what? This is Marvel Superheroes for the Sega Saturn. This was originally a 1995 arcade machine from Capcom. We're watching the 1997 release for the Japanese Sega Saturn. This is also available for the PlayStation, and play it you will because it's awesome. It's basically a Street Fighter game with Marvel superheroes. And a precursor to all of the cool Marvel vs. Capcom games that followed later. It's extremely smooth and looks great on the Sega Saturn. It plays well and totally shows off the power of the underrated Saturn hardware. One of the things that makes this game fairly interesting is the Infinity Gems, which you see at the bottom of the screen. They can be used as temporary power-ups as you're making your way through the storyline in Marvel Superheroes. You collect them throughout the game, and you can beat them out of your opponents. They can also take them from you. It's an interesting feature in this game, but one that you shouldn't rely on, because at the end, when you fight Thanos, he just takes them all. They're a neat trick that's there if you need them. You basically just play the game like a normal Capcom 2D fighting game, learn the moves, kick ass. It's super playable. Those who like the older ones, like X-Men Children of the Atom and Street Fighter II, will enjoy Marvel Superheroes. Here's a look at the player selection screen and these superheroes in the game. If you're an experienced fighting game player, you'll want to increase the difficulty immediately. It's one of the easier Capcom games I've played in a while, and there's also a turbo mode. The loading screens on the Saturn version are a bit slow, but the gameplay itself is terrific. It works really well with the standard Saturn controllers, and it's a beautiful 2D style fighting game. If you're into these games, this is one you should have in your collection, especially if you're a serious Sega Saturn connoisseur. Marvel Superheroes will not disappoint, and it's just different enough from the other games that are similar to keep it interesting, and obviously you can play two-player against your friends. You see the people rocking out in the fire in the background? That's hot. To activate the Infinity Gems, you do a back half-moon arc thing and hold down two of the punch buttons. If you're playing for points, you're scored for the ones that you don't use. Don't become comfortable with them. You may find yourself in a situation where you no longer have your precious Infinity Gems. Thanos, you bitch! That's my rough translation of the Japanese dialogue. A big super thank you to our friend Frank in California for donating this game, along with a number of other awesome fighting games. These really good ones never get old. It's Marvel Superheroes. If you're interested in finding a copy, they're not too hard to find online. It does command a higher price tag than many other fighting games. It should also be noted there is a Western release for both the Saturn and the PlayStation. Fun game, you can't go wrong with this one. Marvel Superheroes. All right, somebody's about to have a good night. I have no idea what that says. Oh, look at that.
How is that happening?
Cat-like reflexes.
This is stupid.
Prepare to be puzzled and bobbled. This is Puzzle Bobble 3 on the Sega Saturn. With cute little dragons and things all over it in Japanese that I can't read. It's a fun game. From Taito comes Puzzle Bobble 3. Admittedly, a game I know next to nothing about, but it's really fun. I can sense fun a mile away, and this is fun, even if I don't fully understand it. Part Bubble Bobble, part Peggle mixed with columns in reverse, and lots of weird Japanese things going on all at once. It's the kind of game you can dive into and start playing even if you don't know what it is you're supposed to do. Basically, lining up 3 of those bubbles in a row makes them explode and scores points, and if you can get some of your bubbles around the other ones up near the top and drop a whole bunch of them at once, then you get big points. I think that's basically it. There's numerous characters to choose from. Each of them seems to have their own thing. And I don't have a good scientific explanation of what that thing is, but when you play the game, you kind of get into the feel of it. Completing levels quickly scores you massive points. So that's really what you're trying to do here, is shoot through these levels as fast as possible, eliminating your opponent. There's also loads of challenge levels, which are equally enjoyable. So Puzzle Bobble 3 gives you many ways to enjoy Puzzle Bobble 3. Language barrier be damned, this game rocks. Let's have fun navigating these menus. As far as I can tell, there's a single-player mode, 2-player, and challenge levels, which you would expect for a game like this. Choose your character and play ahoy! There we go. As you can see, the time bonus pretty much dwarfs anything that you can score in the game, so just clearing levels fast seems to be a good strategy. Now, I think we're playing through a bunch of other Taito games, although I don't see Darius in here. Where's the love for spaceships, man? So, unlike a lot of other puzzle games, not only do you have to be good at spotting your potential color combinations quickly, but you also need good aim. That's one of the things I really like about this game. It's colorful, it's fun, it's frantic, and you're doing more than one thing at once. It's like walking and chewing gum, you're thinking and aiming at the same time. It hurts the brain, but it's immensely fun.
Yeah, now we're clearing things out. Look at that.
Wait a second, how did you do anything that didn't suck?
Yeah.
This is a Japanese release for the Sega Saturn that can be played on Western Saturns using the Action Replay card, or as you saw during the 2-player footage, played with a Japanese Sega Saturn. It's a great single-player game, tons of fun, but it's even better 2-player. Multiplayer, locally, in the same room, like the caveman days. The guy's having seizures, you see that? He's flipping out. Oh, yeah!
Yeah, I'm the winner.
Wait, what happened? How did you do that?
I think I won.
There we go.
Damn it.
Oh, wait, I won! Yay! Hooray me!
You got a bed of roses over there. You're like Bon Jovi. Look, I'm dead. You killed me.
Oh, it's about time, Derek. Wait, no, you're still standing here. Damn it! Good times. A big thanks to my man Frank from San Leandro, California for sending Puzzle Bobble 3 to the show. I've really enjoyed this game, and I don't always care for puzzle games, but this one is just so much fun that you've got to try it. And there's a bunch of Puzzle Bobble games out there. The series is also known as Bust a Move in the West. In fact, I think this exact game is available on the PlayStation as Bust a Move 3 or Bust a Move 99 or something. Check eBay. But make sure to put the word game in there so you don't just pull up a bunch of Young MC mixtapes.
Look, I've already lost. Like, the game just started.
Yes!
And again, I'm rewarded for losing.
Did you get crushed underneath the giant star?
Yeah, but who doesn't want the Giants? How did I... No, look how many points.
It doesn't care about points, it cares about how many times I've won, which is many.
Steal from the rich. Give to the poor little monster with one tooth.
In addition to the single-player and two-player, the challenge modes are a lot of fun, and there's a bunch of them. Basically, in short, this is a really good game. I highly recommend Puzzle Bobble 3 or the equivalent Bust-A-Move game.
幸せでありますように。
Banished from Earth Classic Game Room broadcasts from the intergalactic space arcade on its never-ending mission to review everything. Welcome to Classic Game Room. Usually in vertical scrolling arcade shooters, you're blowing up a whole bunch of enemy tanks, but in this game, you're the tank blowing up a whole bunch of enemies. It's Guardian Force on the Saturn. Released in 1998 for the Saturn from Success, this Japanese exclusive should not be confused with Galactic Attack on the Saturn or Galaxy Force. It's Guardian Force. Although I'm not entirely sure what you're guarding, it seems like you're more on the offensive here than anything. You're blowing the crap out of enemy forces, which is a much larger title. Maybe that just doesn't translate well into Japanese. Well, there's no language barrier here. You can easily play Japanese games on your Saturn, and if you like these games, you're going to want this one. So I'm sorry, I've just spent a lot of your money, because it's not cheap. And the worst part of it is, it's worth it. Guardian Force is really good. So if you like these games, you're totally screwed, because you're not going to leave this review without wanting Guardian Force. What makes it good? Well, it's just different enough to be super clever and really fun. Because instead of just firing in front of you all the time, you have to rotate your little tank turret and kill enemies all around you. The first level is pretty straightforward. After that, the designers start to test your skills. Can you do 3 things at once? Can you drive the tank and avoid enemy fire? Can you shoot bad guys in front of you and also kill the enemies surrounding you? Have fun, because it's great. This one also has a pretty cool scoring system, one that NeoZix, a 2014 release on the Dreamcast, I think borrowed and put to good use. You want to collect those little bonus medals as quickly as possible, because if you miss one, they go back to the starting value, 100 points. And you're obviously going to get a much higher score if you're collecting them when they're worth about 12,000 points. After a while, Guardian Force starts to rotate the screen, which makes good use of your turrets, and it also gives the feeling that you're actually driving around an enemy base, destroying everything. I'm sorry, guarding something, guarding the Force. There's several different weapon power-ups, like the yellow thing that goes straight through enemies, the green one, which is like a giant yo-yo of death, and the blue one here, which is pretty powerful, but has an extremely short range. What a wonderful game. Why can't all games be Guardian Force? Visually, I don't think Guardian Force is the most exciting Sega Saturn vertically scrolling spaceship-style shooter, and the music seems a little bit strange to me as well, but that's subjective. What's really good here is the gameplay. Guardian Force is extremely well-balanced and a lot of fun, because it's just different enough to set it apart from the pack. And you know the Sega Saturn has a whole lot of great games in this genre to begin with. In addition to collecting your various weapons, you're also leveling up and becoming more powerful. You'll lose some of that if you get destroyed. And as you can see, Guardian Force is also a whole lot of fun with a friend. It makes a great two-player game. Give me points! There's several difficulty settings. The Saturn will save your high score. We're playing on normal here, which is plenty challenging when you get into it. But it's not one of the more insane Sega Saturn spaceship shooters. It's tough, but not impossible. Guardian Force even has flamethrowers, and you know I love flamethrowers, even when they're being used on my space battle tank. On that note, a huge Classic Game Room shout out and thank you goes to Ahmed from Springfield Gardens, New York once again. Thank you for this very generous and incredible gift to the show. I'll be playing this game a lot. In fact, that's what I'll be doing this weekend. I was playing Borderlands 2, but then I got bored, but this game never gets old. It's Guardian Force. I want to win this damn thing on one flare. That's, well, it may take more than a weekend for that, but I highly recommend this one. It's pricey, but it's worth it. It's Guardian Force. Why do they always have to turn into a giant spinning thing?
It's all on you.
It's all continue. Are we out of continues?
Yep.
Give me a special thing.
We haven't been formally introduced, Captain. Though given the circumstances of our first meeting, that's hardly surprising.
First, let me say welcome to the Resistance, Captain.
And let me say what a stunning jacket you're wearing, Commander.
I hope you have better luck this time. Dismiss, Captain.
Crusader No Remorse. I've been in a lot of resistances in video games, and this one's one of the best. Our Red Tin Man of Death, the Silencer. This game is from Origin, the same people that brought us some of those awesome Ultima games back in the day. For starters, the back of the packaging says if you don't have a bad attitude, you don't stand a chance. And that will be demonstrated here as I crush one of the loyal employees underneath an elevator. And he bleeds. This is one of the first games that I can remember that really hams it up with this tongue-in-cheek, bringing down the dystopian, futuristic corporate government by any means necessary, slaughtering all of the soldiers, robots, and loyal workers. What we're looking at is Crusader on the Sega Saturn. I played this game originally on the PC back in 1995 or 1996, and was just blown away with the awesome action and over-the-top violence. It's got that RoboCop level of violence and humor mixed together with a fairly interesting story. This game reminds me a lot now of Red Faction, not so much in the gameplay, but just in the story and the feel of the game, which I really enjoy. Crusader's a humorous yet dark and cynical game, and I think a lot of what this game does well has been cliched these days.
Here's a security card to get you past level 3. Watch out on level 4, though. There are mechs patrolling beyond that point.
There's a lot of subtle touches of humor in there, like when you're reading the computer terminals and there's messages on there. You get email in this game. One of the first games I remember seeing email. And they even have spam emails. cherry on top of Crusader No Remorse for video games today are the excellent live-action sequences, because these were cheesy back in 95 and 96, and today they're just awesome. Because they totally complement the feel of the game. I'm not even making fun of them. I actually like them. The gameplay in Crusader No Remorse feels a bit dated today, but it's still tremendously fun. I don't like the controls as much on the Saturn as I did on the PC. I think this game actually played better with a keyboard. If they released this today, it would probably have more of the Robotron style of controls. The storyline of Crusader No Remorse is pretty entertaining. You are a defector from the World Economic Consortium. You're a silencer, a merciless killer. You turn on your old bosses and friends and slaughter them without mercy. What we're looking at is the first couple missions, and if I remember correctly, this is a fairly lengthy game. You can find this incredibly cheap today for the Sega Saturn. It's also available on the PlayStation 1 and, of course, the PC. One of the downsides is you don't get much variety in the levels, and that they all start looking the same after a while. But there are a lot of weapons as the game progresses, and unlocking each of the awesome cutscenes definitely provides motivation to keep playing. To see what kind of awesome 1991 pastel-colored space jackets these people are wearing in the 22nd century. And the Jerry curl does come back in the future. There's hope for us all. Throughout the game, you have to solve little puzzles, like flipping switches here and there, shooting something to open a door, finding various paths through things. It's not exactly a non-stop, edge-of-your-seat action thrill ride, but it's definitely entertaining and a lot of fun to play. And if you like games like Red Faction, I highly recommend you check out Crusader No Remorse.
I'm Major Joanne Vargas. I don't know how you got past the doctor and his guards back at the prison, but I hope he's on a slow shuttle to hell right now. Anyway, thanks for getting me out of there.
Oh! Poison wins!
Welcome to Classic Game Room, where I bring you a fighting game on the Sega Saturn that has chainsaws and flamethrowers. This is Final Fight Revenge.
Final Fight Revenge!
Final Fight is better known as a series of side-scrolling beat-em-ups from Capcom, but here we have a 1999 or 2000 release for the Japanese Sega Saturn, Final Fight Revenge, which is a fighting game, and a somewhat interesting one. Before you hit the buy button on eBay, watch the gameplay for a bit, because Final Fight Revenge is, in my opinion, not one of Capcom's better fighting games, but it is different, and it's definitely wacky and has a good sense of humor.
Somersault!
Ah, good old Poison, no relation to the band. She's actually one of the better fighters in the game. And I think it's no coincidence that her name is Poison, since she's basically a walking venereal disease that attacks enemies by chomping on their neck.
Piece of cake!
She's a winner. One of the main features in Final Fight Revenge is that when you start each round, there's weapons laying on the ground that you can pick up and then attack your opponent with. But most of them aren't terribly useful. And it's easy to get distracted by the weapons. Your special attacks are far more powerful than any of the knives, swords, guns, flamethrowers, or chainsaws in this game, and that's kind of ridiculous, because really the flamethrower and chainsaw should win every time. The biggest issue for me here isn't the questionable weapons and the mechanics there, it's the gameplay itself, which isn't nearly as smooth as most of the other Capcom fighting games. But we do get this. Poison stuns enemies by showing them a greatest hits collection of her slutty behavior. Wow, and here we get the rocket launcher, which is possibly the least effective weapon in the game. So what we've got here is a unique 3D fighting game on the Sega Saturn with a weapons system that's best avoided. Don't even waste your time picking them up, just go straight for your opponents and pull off special moves. That does far more damage. I don't think Final Fight Revenge plays as well as Capcom's other fighting games like X-Men, Children of the Atom, Darkstalkers, or Cyberbots. But it does have character, so I've got to give it credit for that. Obviously, you can play 1 or 2 player locally, and this is a Japanese exclusive released pretty late in the Saturn's life, 1999-2000. The Dreamcast was out by then. So I guess it's no surprise this one never made it to the West.
Ready? Fight!
This gun may be the only one that's worth picking up in the game. What's really disappointing is that the flamethrower doesn't do enough damage and the chainsaw is too slow. How do you block a chainsaw? His arms should be on the ground. They need to go back and redo this one. There's so much potential here. It's like they pulled the plug before the game was finished or something. And the best part of it is that this is one of these games like Radiant Silvergun, which is unbelievably expensive, probably because it's rare. I love the Thriller video recreation or the Teen Wolf dance here. Good stuff. And I've got a classic game room. Shout out and thank you to send to George from McKee's Rocks outside of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Thank you, George. It was nice meeting you last year. Thanks for handing Final Fight Revenge and Cyberbots to the show. Oh yeah, the shotgun's not too bad either. That's one of the guns worth picking up. The fact is, given the price, I would avoid this one. There's better fighting games on the Saturn which are far more affordable, unless you're looking to collect for rarity or play something which is really different. In which case, Final Fight Revenge is there for you, although I would stick with Final Fight on the Sega CD.
What a man!
You know it. This one has its moments. It's Final Fight Revenge. Thanks again, George. See you next time. Vanished from Earth Classic Game Room broadcasts from the Intergalactic Space Arcade on its never-ending mission to review everything.
Manx TT Superbike.
Welcome to Classic Game Room for the review of Manx TT Superbike on the Saturn, which I kept calling Manix. Remember Manix, the old TV show? No? Well, don't worry about it because Magnum PI was better. Manix, please, if you can't hire the A-Team or Magnum PI or Airwolf or Murder, She Wrote, then there's really no hope for you. Manix. Well, it did have a good theme song. And what does that have to do with this game? Everything. Because Manix was a private investigator who investigated things like crimes, but who actually busted those criminals? The cops from Chips. And what did they drive? Motorcycles. And what's this video game about? Motorcycles. You're winning races to solve crimes. Or at least that's what I choose to believe, because the fact is there's not a whole lot I can say about this game other than the fact that it's good. It's an excellent Sega arcade-style motorcycle racing game. The only problem is it's extremely short, there's only 2 tracks, and you absolutely need the analog controller or steering wheel to play it. It runs smoothly, it looks good, it sounds good. I'm surprised it's taken me this long to play it.
Passing the checkpoint.
I think I even like this one better than Hang On GP95. As you might expect from a motorcycle racing game, controlling the bikes is tricky. There's a couple to choose from. Some are slower with better handling, and then of course faster with less handling and control. The 2 tracks in the game are based on, or maybe they're copies of the real-world tracks from the Isle of Man TT, which is apparently a famous motorcycle race held on the Isle of Man. If the Isle of Man doesn't pick his socks up off the floor, does he get yelled at by the Isle of Woman? It took a good 5 minutes to come up with that bad joke, so please, just give it some time. No, it still sucks. Thankfully, the game is good. This is good because it plays really well. It's like one of the classic Sega arcade racers, like Daytona USA, with motorcycles on an island surrounded by water, which I guess technically makes it an island. But that doesn't explain Rhode Island. Why does that place exist? Anyway, back to this game. If you try to play it with the Saturn controller with the D-pad, you'll oversteer everywhere. So just don't do that. Get the analog controller. You know, the Nights into Dreams one, or the steering wheel. There's an arcade mode, a championship mode, and even 2-player gameplay. I think the visuals look great. Maybe it's because there's only like 1 track in the game, but they did a great job with it. You can save your best times, and if you enjoy games like Hang On GP or Daytona USA, you should add this one to your collection. Just make sure that when you search for it, you search for Manx and not Manx TT. I'm pretty sure they never made that game. This one is fairly easy to collect and not all that expensive, so if you think it looks good, it is. Trust me, this one's actually an excellent game. And I have a classic game room shout out and thank you to send all the way. I just ran over that guy. That was awesome. Anyway, I have a classic game room shout out and thank you to send to Felicity. Once again from Worcestershire, England. Thank you, Felicity. Although that guy I ran over probably doesn't thank you. He's most likely annoyed. I just ran over him, and I'm laughing about it. But the game is good, so. Manx TT Superbike on the Saturn.
Time is up and you didn't finish.
Game over. No! Vanished from Earth Classic Game Room broadcasts from the Intergalactic Space Arcade on its never-ending mission to review everything. Crystal Dynamics presents Solar Eclipse for the Sega Saturn from 1995, and this game has one of my favorite things of all time in it. Mid-90s full-motion video scenes. This is an art form which has been lost for years and replaced with crappy CGI, big actors on cardboard sets. In fact, I think my greatest disappointment with this game is that the acting and the sets are actually pretty good.
It's an hour from now.
Yeah, I already did the math.
All right, people. You've seen the tape. After that, 1,792 people got real quiet.
They did a somewhat competent job here, and this stars Claudia Christian, who many of you might remember from Babylon 5.
the back of the packaging says, "Ride the Death Pony." How can you dislike a game that has Ride the Death Pony on? I don't know what the Death Pony is, but I want to ride it. You have 2 camera modes. I'm playing behind the spaceship. You can also take a cockpit view, but I think it's easier to see the train when you're behind it, like Star Fox or so many other games from the era. I always imagined that the actors would show up in the mid-90s to record for a video game, and they'd arrive at a garage with cardboard sets and just roll their eyes. Really? I once did a movie with Spielberg, and now I'm in a Sega Saturn game. Sounds like a promotion, actually. I guess depending on which Spielberg movie.
Not exactly textbook flying, stuntman.
Why don't you ask him what happened over Havana in '87? Let me know if you change your mind.
Solar Eclipse is nearly impossible. This game is hard as nails. And even with cheat codes, it's still difficult. I think I could get through 4 levels of this game, and after that, you've just got to memorize. You've got to find like the perfect path through each of the levels, because you will run out of ammo.
I'm deep 6 behind something. Just below Mach.
In the future, everybody wears Vietnam-era helicopter pilot helmets. Even though your laser ammo in Solar Eclipse is infinite, your missiles are not. You have a special weapon where you launch a bunch of missiles out at enemies. Comes in handy for boss battles. And while you're flying through each of these caverns or space environments, you can also pick up some additional firepower with those bonus weapons, but you'll lose them if you start taking damage, because once you deplete your shields, it then starts to deplete your special weapons.
Mission objective destroyed. You're 2 for 2, stuntman.
Kelp may not like your moves, but I don't hear Hopscotch complaining.
I hate this. Losing an engine, job only got half done.
And that only looks like half of an X-Wing fighter. Hey, look at all the blinking lights behind her.
Take a quick look. Loading.
That lets you know that it's in the future, where everything has blinking lights, or at least it did in 1995. You've actually got to give this game some credit for having good special effects for the era, for a video game, and decent lighting. Lighting is usually where they really screwed these up, but this game actually has some pretty good lighting on the actors. I mean, the acting's not good, not by any means, but it's still better than a lot of other games from the era. However, hold on. How many other games from back in the day have a bonus level where you blow up cows and listen to burping? Oh yeah, Solar Eclipse has it all. It's classy. Some levels require that you rotate your spaceship 90 degrees using the L and R buttons on your Saturn controller, and yes, you can also crash into things and explode. It's a very difficult game. Thankfully, you can save your progress on the Saturn, and as you can see, it plays pretty well. It's a good-looking game. Crystal Dynamics is known for doing some pretty good work, I think, at least. I mean, look, they gave you a level where you blow up ATVs or something, and then go shoot things underwater. These are actually cheat code levels. And if you have the action replay, you could just go full invincible, but obviously you get your best bang for the buck if you actually try to beat the game, which is fairly lengthy, and I think you'll find it's really tough. The enemies are just relentless, it's easy to crash into things. But a lot of fun, and there's a decent plot, which is a bit like Star Trek the Motion Picture.
Hey, I mean, if you shoot that thing there, you think it'll burn? Fire.
And most of the time, there'll be some actors talking you through each of the levels with a little picture-in-picture, and then you've got those awesome 90s cutscenes. Solar Eclipse is a cool spaceship shooter for your Sega Saturn, and I've got a classic game room shout-out and thank you going to Frank from San Leandro, California once again. Thank you, Frank. This one is very cool if you like these spaceship-style games like this, and mid-90s full-motion video scenes like me. And Claudia Christian is not hard on the eyes either, especially when she's looking very serious with all of those blinky lights behind her.
Spinner.
I'm checking.
It's the classic Space Harrier on the Sega Saturn, a beautiful version of this game, with silky smooth gameplay and colorful visuals reminiscent of the arcade machine. This happens to be the Japanese release for the Sega Saturn, but there's no translation issues. You just shoot everything that moves. It's Space Harrier, and that's how he rolls, with fancy pants and moon boots. Hey, did you guys see the review of this game on Ultra Fail? That was great, and I totally agree. Space Harrier is a lot more fun to win than to lose. And I found this version of the game on the normal setting to be more challenging than the version of Space Harrier that I recently reviewed on the PlayStation 3 included in the Sonic's Ultimate Genesis collection. It also sounds better. It does. I heard that people said the pitch was off on the PS3 version. I didn't really notice until I played this version, which does sound better. The music in Space Harrier is it's just terrific. It's awesome 80s arcade music. Space Harrier was one of Sega's really big arcade games from the mid-80s from designer Yu Suzuki, who's famous for Outrun and Afterburner, among other games. It was released on a variety of different game consoles over many years. And from what I understand, the Saturn version and the Sega 32X version are among the best. My thumb is getting tired just watching this. There's no auto-fire option in the menus, and I was using my standard controller. I should have grabbed one of the ones with turbo fire. Note how smooth the animation on the obstacles is, by the way, and remember that when we all watch this game on the Sega Master System together. Not that this should surprise you, try saying that 3 times fast, but the Saturn version is dramatically better than the Sega Master System version of Space Harrier. And it damn well better be. There's not many instances where the Master System outperforms the Saturn. It does have more letters, though. Space Harrier is a gorgeous game and tons of fun. It's just a terrific Sega arcade-style game. Similar to Afterburner in some respects, you're being scored for the distance that you travel, or basically the length of time that you stay alive, and of course the enemies that you destroy. There's 5 different difficulty settings in this version of the game, and a couple other options that you can change. And while I don't remember the arcade machine as well as some of you watching, something about this version of the game does feel better and sound better than the PlayStation 3 release in Sonic's Ultimate Genesis collection, but that's still a really nice version of this game, and if you have a PS3 or a 360, it's a good collection to go for. If you have a Saturn, this is a no-brainer. Space Harrier kicks so much ass, especially when you're wearing fancy pants. If you're collecting for the Master System, you've probably already got this, and it's a little unclear why they released the Master System version on the Virtual Console.
Get ready.
You'll see why during that review. This one is a lot better, but I'm not beating up on the Master System because Space Harrier is a lot of game, with a lot of colors, a lot of objects flying around the screen. A sense of 3D movement rarely seen like this in the mid-80s, and it's simply brilliant and runs like a champ on the Saturn. Hey, it's the Cyclops Woolly Mammoth level. I love blowing those things up, and I love this game. Another giant thank you to Frank in California for the donation, and for sending Capcom vs. SNK 2 on the Dreamcast. I accidentally cut out the thank you in that review. I blame Cammy. Anyway, my gameplay was better on the PS3 version, but the next time I want to play Space Harrier, which is like right now, I'm going back to the Saturn version of Space Harrier.